The Boston Celtics are your 2024 NBA champions. And honestly, guys, it's one of the more dominating runs that I've seen. Like throughout the playoffs, I know they lost a couple of games, but it never felt like any of their series really were in jeopardy. I know the Pacers games were somewhat close throughout. They dropped a game versus the Cavs. They dropped a game versus the Mavs. But it just never really felt like the Celtics were really threatened in the playoffs. And that was without KP for the majority of them. I'll be the one to say it. The Boston Celtics were by far and away the best team in the NBA this season and are so deserving of the NBA championship. Seeing Al Horford get his championship, obviously Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum do their thing. The Boston Celtics from top to bottom, it was a team effort. Peyton Pritchard hitting some big time shots, Sam Hauser off the bench, heck, even Xavier Tillman at times in this series getting the job done. I'm not a Boston Celtics fan, and honestly, I'm all for upsets, but I'm not mad that they won the championship, and honestly, I'm happy for Jaylen Brown. I'm happy for Jason Tatum. I'm happy for the whole entire Celtics organization. Obviously, you feel for the Dallas Mavericks making it this far to just come up short. But the best team in the NBA won this season. Now, in the box score, I want to start with the Boston Celtics. This is one of the better games I've seen Jason Tatum play. Only 1 of 7 from deep, but 11 for 24 from the field, 11 assists, 8 rebounds, only 2 turnovers. Just one of the more dominating games from Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown only 7 of 23, didn't shoot the ball that well, but had 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and only 1 turnover as well. The big thing for me with the Boston Celtics tonight were how well their role players shot the ball. Al Horford 2 of 3, Derek White 4 of 8, Drew knocked down a 3, Sam Hauser 2 of 6, Peyton Pritchard hit a 55-footer. I mean, it was just crazy, a crazy shooting display, especially early on for the Boston Celtics. On the flip side, the Dallas Mavericks, Kyrie Irving, yikes, is honestly all I can say. Luka, one of the team worst, minus 19. PJ Washington was awful. Josh Green really was the only bright spot tonight when you're looking at the box score from top to bottom. I'm sure the Mavs will bounce back, but it's crazy for me when I'm looking at this Mavs box score, and obviously they did their thing in the Western Conference. They deserve to be here, but just matched up versus the Boston Celtics, really never had an opportunity, a decent shot. Finals MVP was Jaylen Brown. I personally believe he deserved the Finals MVP. A lot of people are going to say Jason Tatum. I think could have went either way, but I think the defense that Jaylen Brown played on Luka Doncic in the full court setting, I think the way offensively he dominated in the earlier part of this series definitely showed through. But Jason Tatum was the MVP of this game. Game 5, Jason Tatum was by far and away the best player on the court tonight. That includes Luka Doncic. Jason Tatum absolutely just had control of this game all throughout. Now, one thing I do want to look at here, Drew Holiday, Derek White each had 4 offensive rebounds. It's crazy. You look at the offensive rebounds, they had 15 offensive rebounds. From early on in this game, Boston kind of took control. They started hot and it just continued all throughout. The Mavs somewhat battled early on in this game. But the thing for me is, this was a lot of the game. They'd miss a shot and not get back in transition. Transition buckets killed them. Look at how many points Boston scored early on in the shot clock. It's a long shot that leads to a leak out, stuff like that. Just really, the Mavs could never figure out. Luka tried, man. Luka obviously battled injuries, battled a lot of different things throughout this series, but it's just one of those things for the Boston Celtics. They're just so much more talented, so much deeper than the Dallas Mavericks. And it just seemed like throughout this entire series, the Dallas Mavericks were battling uphill. Never really felt like they were in control of this series at all. Again, early on in this game, Josh Green kept them in it. I was thinking, early on in this game, if the Mavs would win, Josh Green would be a big part of the video I made tonight because he was so good early on, putting a big-time stamp on this game. But it just wasn't enough. You guys are going to see Boston, kind of goes on some runs here. Again, Luka tried to make the game somewhat interesting, but it just was not enough. And the thing is, I feel like the Boston Celtics had the Mavericks defense in rotation at all times. Not just in this game, but just throughout the entire series. Just felt like the Mavs never could get a stop, consistent stops on the Boston Celtics. And again, this is what hurt them, transition buckets. You turn the ball over, then you give up a transition too. That happens so often. And then, you know what, going into halftime, I want to skip ahead to this because this is a super important part of the game. Yes, Boston goes on a little run to end the second half. They do. They're up, nearly 20 points. late here in the second half. Boston knocks down a 3. Then on the other end, I think Luka knocks down a bucket here, gets a bucket, and an and one. I think it's an and one situation. Notice the Boston Celtics sub in Peyton Pritchard. They sub in Peyton Pritchard. Off the miss, Pritchard gets the ball, chucks it from beyond half court, and knocks it down. At that stage, that's a huge moment. If Luka knocks down the free throw, then they get a stop. It's a 17-point game going into half. Instead, it's a 21-point deficit heading into halftime. And honestly, at this stage, I knew the game was over. Dallas tried to battle back a little bit in the second half, but it just wasn't enough. I'm not the biggest Jason Tatum fan, but guess what? He has an NBA championship, and he played a big-time role in that. The Boston Celtics, by far and away, the best team in the league this year. And honestly, I think they are better than people realize even now. Like, Boston Celtics, it's not just going to be a one-year thing. They're going to bring most of their team back. They've got a lot of those guys locked up. And it is going to be a run-it-back tour. Who can have enough to beat Boston in the future? Y'all tell me. Because from what I saw in this series, what I saw all season long, Boston might have a mini franchise run in them. Like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 years in a row. Am I saying too much? Nah, probably not 4 years. But maybe like a 2 or 3 year run. Really would not surprise me. Man, Drew Holiday is so good. Drew Holiday is the type of guy any coach would want on their team. An absolute stud, an absolute winner. Same thing with Derek White. Drop a like on the video, guys. Subscribe if you're new, and as always, man, I love you guys. Have a blessed day.